Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Infield Report. My name is Isaac alongside my older brother, Tyler.
Hello.
This week is a bit of a different week. The Cup Series had the All Star race at Dover, but the other two series, the Truck Series and the O'Reilly Series, still had points races at Dover, which we'll dive into that topic here in a bit. But we do want to, um, highlight the other two series because they were some pretty good races, I thought, for being kind of not really as talked about over the course of the weekend. Again, there were certain topics throughout both races that got talked about quite a bit, so we'll dive into that here in a second. But we'll start off with the truck series here, and it was it was history making on Friday night. It was or Friday afternoon. It was really awesome to see Destiny Spurlock finally make her Truck Series debut. She was supposed to last weekend at the Glen. Unfortunately, qualifying metrics or not the metrics, but the qualifying system itself did not favor her. She wasn't quite fast enough to make it. So, or she was, but based on owner points, this, that, and the other, she didn't. But she was able to qualify for Dover, and unfortunately, her day ended very prematurely. She got into a bit of an incident. She tried to save the truck, and as Michael Waltrip said on the broadcast, it's if you're going to save a truck anywhere, Dover is probably the hardest place to save it. There's just every bit of that track is banked to some degree, and so if you're trying to save the truck from spinning out or anything like that, it's very difficult to save it. But it was good to see her get some Truck Series laps in finally in a race. The results don't show it, but I think there's a lot of potential there, and she's got a long way to go, I think, but in a good way. Like there's a lot of momentum behind her. There was a lot of positive attention around her this weekend, so it was good to see her bring a lot of that to the weekend, and so it was really cool to see her make her debut. We had Clint Boyer returning for the first time in a couple years to the trucks. Unfortunately, his day also ended. He got to complete most of the race, but it also ended before the scheduled distance for him. He was able to complete 181 out of the 200 laps, but it sounded like he had some issues with the hub that caused some damage. So we don't know. I don't know exactly what happened, but he sounded like he was having a lot of fun. Kevin Harvick was giving him some crap over the radio as well, so it was kind of fun to see and hear some of that. And so again, we had him coming back. Now there was a fairly big incident that was talked about this weekend, and I kind of want to get your opinions on it, Tyler. But Natalie Decker had a bit of as the internet puts it, a crash out on the radio. She was not happy with the truck. She wasn't happy with the series director. She wasn't happy with this, that, and the other. And she kind of blew up on the radio, and they told her just to come down and park it. The official reason she didn't finish the race, according to Jayski, was too slow. Now, it was the same reason, or officially the same reason as last week from the Glen, but different scenario this week. Again, Josh Rom told her, just come down and park it. You know, we have the truck in one piece. Just bring it down and we'll park it. What did you make of her radio that we heard from the race?
As of now, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors or anything, either personal life or at the team. I'm not saying anything nefarious is happening, but help remind me. She's the one that had the baby last year, right, in August, and then returned fairly quickly
Yeah, it was
last
it was
year.
late summer. Yep.
So I'm going to make it kind of short and sweet because my wife and I went through this 7 months ago. Like I said, still probably postpartum. Probably still has that depressive state. Everything's probably really stressful. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not saying that's the cause of all of her problems, but I think we all need to step back and not be so harsh on her. It sounds bad at first, but if she's still in the postpartum depression state, I think she probably needs to take a little bit more time away from the track, get a little bit better. And at the end of the day, if this is not for her after having a child, okay, that's perfectly fine. Family comes first at the end of the day. But that's all I really have to say about it because I think everyone's being buttholes about it, and that's not okay.
Yeah, and I think you're putting it very lightly on how people are treating her online. And again, the online, a lot of the online stuff that gets the most attention, that gets seen quite a bit, is on either end of the spectrum, either positive or negative. And unfortunately, a lot of it directed at her was very negative. Um, I do have to agree with you, though. I think there was a lot of too much hatred going her way. And she did mention, she's never coming back to the trucks, and that she only wants an O'Reilly car, or she only wants to, take part in the O'Reilly series. And there were, you can find the clips for yourself. I'm not gonna show them here, but it doesn't sound like it's very good on her side. And I just want her to be okay before she gets in a truck or a car, whatever it ends up being that she races again, if she races again. It's been it's been rough seeing her return from having her baby, and a lot of the things that have happened off track and things like that. And so, as long as she's okay mentally to get past everything that she's been going through, that's, I think, all we hope for. And we wish her the best. Like I mean, if this is the end of her truck series career, it's unfortunate the way that it went, but understandable. You just have to kind of take things as they go. And there's probably, like you said, more to the story, but we'll we'll leave it at that. And we just figured we'd bring it up since it was very, very much covered online over the course of the weekend. But um, yeah, we wish her the best, and hopefully she's able to do what's best for her and her family. So yeah, rough weekend for her, but there was quite a few drivers that had some tangles with each other, some beating and banging at Dover. Uh, it honestly was a pretty fun race to watch. I know there was a lot of people that have been very vocal about this since Dover lost the cup date for a points race. They said, "Well, why'd you take it away? It creates such great racing." And the truck series definitely showed that. I mean, I know it's obviously 3 different series, 3 different vehicles, but the entertainment was through the roof this weekend. I mean, there were a lot of drivers like Clint Boyer pushed it 3 wide there towards the end, and unfortunately spun, Minnie Tyrell, his teammate. But, like, there was a lot of great action all over the track. And getting to watch some of these cup guys come down and still, like, tangle with the regulars like they do every couple weeks and stuff is always fun. And you had some part-timers come in and do their thing and try to better themselves. And so it was really fun to watch that. And unfortunately, we had, I'll say, for a viewer standpoint, unfortunately, uh, and from a not so Kyle Busch fan, unfortunately, we saw him sweep the stages and take the race win. Just completely dominated the race. I mean, led 147 of the 200 laps. And I mean, it wasn't as runaway as it could have been. If it would have gone green there at the end, he probably would have won by 4 plus seconds. But I also have a feeling too he was kind of holding back. But nevertheless, he dominated the race, dominated the weekend, or just the truck race anyway. And it was it was a lot of fun. Otherwise, like I said, throughout the pack, you had Brandon Jones coming down from the O'Reilly series, and getting a solid and respectable 6th place finish in his, I believe, 2nd Truck Series start of the season. So, I mean, not a Truck Series guy by trade either. He didn't come up through the Truck Series, but he's been putting together some solid results. Corey LaJoie got himself one of his best finishes of the year in 8th. Justin Haley in another Ram truck also delivered. He finished 10th for Ram. They seem to be finding their groove now. Now, as the season progresses, what I see they had, I mean, minus Minnie Tyrell and Clint Boyer, they were all in the top 15. The other 3 were. So, Butterbean was up there in 13th, so they were doing really well for themselves. Um, did you have any drivers you wanted to mention? I mean, I know we're not to fridge or trash yet, but was there anything on track you thought was interesting to mention from the race?
I think the broadcast did mention that Kyle Busch was the very first, at least truck driver, to lead 1,000 laps at a single track. I think.
That sounds about right.
Well, I'm surprised that he's the one that has that record, because you'd think uh, any of the Bodines, especially Todd Bodine, Jack Sprague, Matt Crafton, Greg Biffle, you would think they would have that record to their name, but I guess they don't. I never really noticed that. So
I
that
would have
that was
thought they
kind
would have
of
too.
especially like Crafton, his success in the Truck Series. You would think he would lead that many laps and have at least 1,000 or more laps led at a single track, but I guess he doesn't.
No, I mean, he's one that, again, I would have thought. I mean, number 1 with his, like you said, his talent, but also 2, his longevity. I mean, he was in the sport for 20 plus years straight, and you would think mathematically it would add up, but I guess not. But I mean, that just shows how good Kyle Busch is when he comes down to these lower series. So, I mean, he's in a good truck with Spire, so I mean, you can't hate on that. But like, even if you were to take, he could take, you know, a bottom tier team and probably bring them home a top 10 or a top 15 at worst, just because he knows how to drive the truck. He knows he can help them with their setups and things like that. He could do that, but because he sold his KBM, Kyle Busch Motorsports truck stuff to Spire, he's got that, agreement with them and stuff like that. But it was it was a pretty solid day for a lot of these guys. Again, I know Ty Majeski had a fantastic day throughout the day, coming home with a second place finish and placing second and third in stages 1 and 2 respectively. That definitely helped his momentum. I know we had talked about, or I had talked about him last week as far as him needing to kind of reverse course, and I think that was a good solid step forward for him to get into the second half of the season and continue to build on some sort of success, and I think they're doing that. So, him and then, his teammate Jake Garcia in the 98 truck, which was his old number last year, which is still kinda weird. Um, Jake Garcia coming home in ninth place, great finish for him as well. Unfortunately, we had seen, some of his other, like Ben Rhodes, unfortunately, his teammate coming home in 19th, not the day he wanted, but they've had some as an organization, they've had some ups and downs this season, more on the downward side of things, but things are hopefully looking up for them, and they've had some really solid years with the old system. So I'm curious to see what this chase format's going to look like for them, because again, they all their drivers are always really good. So I'm very curious to see what their uh, positions will be once we roll around to the chase. But as far as the regular season points go for right now, Caden Honeycutt, who was last week's winner, still sits at the top. He's uh, he's got 347 points. He came home with a fourth place finish at Dover this weekend. So still a very, very good result for him. He also had some stage points there in stage two. So that helped him out a little bit with the point situation. Lane Riggs, who finished third in the race, is sitting second in points right now. Chandler Smith, not necessarily his best day, but still came home with the top 15. He sits in third place. Gio Ruggiero, not his best performance by any means. He finished 20th in the race, but he's fourth in points right now. And then Ty Majeski, as we mentioned, with his great second place finish, has found his way back to fifth in the points. So that does help him out a little bit, keep him, on the up and up for the chase. They've only got 9 regular season races left. So every point is starting to add up, and it's starting to matter now more than ever. So you're going to have to definitely put together your best runs coming on this second, or coming in this second half of the season. If we shift over here to the cut line right now, Tyler Ankrum sits as the cutoff driver currently. Uh, so the entirety of that cut line situation is looking pretty close though right now. Um, Jake Garcia in eighth place is only 7 points above that cut line, the theoretical cut line right now. And uh, Stuart Friesen in ninth place in the points right now. He's only 2 points above that cut line. And then Corey Heim, who's ineligible for the points, he's 2 points back. He's only run 4 races, but he's still 11th in the points, which just says something to you. If we take him out of the picture, Daniel Hemrick would then be in 11th, uh, 10 points back. And then Butterbean also is tied with Daniel Hemrick at 10 points back. So every position does matter. And races like Dover, or tracks like Dover, excuse me, definitely test you. And so it's going to be interesting to see, again, what these guys can put together for the second half of the season and build on what they were able to do or what they could change to change their trajectory of the season. So um, it's definitely going to be fun to watch. But the O'Reilly race had some action early. It was it was kind of crazy to see some accidents, some incidents fairly early. We had a guy that we've been talking about all season that at least I've become a big fan of, Parker Retzloff, who in my mind could be a top, or he should be at the top of the prospect or towards the top of the prospect list right now. Didn't get many laps completed. He finished dead last with Jeb Burton, but some of these guys had some great races. Had a great race, excuse me. And it was very eventful. There was, like I said, some spins early. There was some contact. We had more Raja Caruth versus Jesse Love stuff go on that I don't think Jesse Love appreciated, and it was not intentional on Raja's part either. Just hard racing. But what can you do, unfortunately? Like, you're trying to race for a race win. You're trying to race for the lead, especially, to start the second stage, and you're trying to get every position you can. And then you make contact and you end up spinning both of you out. Granted, there was not very much damage, if any at all, but you can clearly tell. I mean, they're Chevy teammates, but RCR versus Junior Motorsports is kind of a tough look. So I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but where do you think those two currently stand? Do you think Jesse Love still needs to pay him back, or do you think Raja is probably okay right now?
If they talked, I'm pretty sure they're okay. Jesse Love will probably still be a little pissy about it, but like I said, it didn't look intentional. It just looked like a very bad handling car, and he just collected someone that he's tangled with before. Hopefully, Jesse Love looks at it and goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, you know, your car wasn't handling that great. We were in a tight spot. Let it go." But Dover almost drives like a short track almost in the right conditions. So hopefully they talked, but as a payback and anything to come of it, I don't think so. At least I hope not.
I mean, it would be entertainment. It would be great entertainment for the sport, but like you said, I don't think there's going to be payback coming. I just really hope that they can like the battles between them are always entertaining, regardless of whether anything negative comes out of it. I think they always create great racing against each other, so it's going to be fun to watch. Just keep an eye on it this weekend at Charlotte for sure. But um, some guys had some better than expected runs. Austin Green again with another top 15 finish, this time in 12th. Not a guy that we see a whole lot of, and then all of a sudden last week and this week he just kind of pops up out of nowhere and shows up and finishes really well. So whatever speed they've found is great for them in that 87 camp. I mean, like I said, they somehow found something. Ryan Sieg, again, another one that has had more. He's had peaks and valleys on the season, but more so valleys. But he's you know coming back on the positive side of things again with an eighth place finish. Dover, I think, is another good track for him. Just with that style of track, short track, I think definitely lends well to his skill set, and so he was able to put together a really solid performance. And so, I mean, he found his way towards the front and was able to keep up. Now the battling and I didn't talk about this in the truck series because we didn't see it quite as much, but the ability to run different lanes at Dover, they applied resin. I believe it was on the entire track or on the in the turns anyway. They applied resin all the way up to the top. And it produced a lot of great racing, and we especially saw it in the O'Reilly series where they were able to run higher, and we actually saw eventual race winner Corey Day diamonding the corners, which you don't ever really see at Dover. So it was very interesting to watch that and watch a different racing technique earn him the lead and then earn him the win. And the battle there towards the end against his teammate, I mean, they're Chevy teammates, but against his teammate, Justin Allgaier, it was incredible to watch. And like you had mentioned, you had messaged me, or we were talking yesterday, which was after the O'Reilly race, that those last 30 laps were electric. I mean, I was unfortunately at work and I couldn't watch it real time, but you could feel it just ramping up. I mean, how did it feel for you watching those last 30 laps? Were you like, "Let's go. This is heating up," or what were you thinking real time when you saw it?
When you were watching the gaps and lap times and just totally different driving techniques, you were kind of seeing, okay, he's catching them, but I don't see any progress. Oh, I see progress. Oh, he tried something new. He fell back. And then he gained it right back like nothing happened, if not gained extra. And then as the race went on and got closer and closer, it did ramp up. It got really exciting. It's been a while since I've seen a good, really good, entertaining race at Dover, and it did deliver at least in the Xfinity. Excuse me, oh my gosh, the O'Reilly series. We're about
Here we
halfway through
are
the
in May, and we're
season,
still getting the
and
sponsors wrong.
yeah, halfway through the season, man. But
We'll
anyway,
get there.
oh yeah. So going back to it, the last 3 laps were very entertaining. I just wish it was the whole race, but I get it. Conservation and you know, save your stuff to the end, but I don't know. I don't know. I think I would love to see it in other series as well. 'Cause I was texting our mother yesterday. I blinked too long. The truck series is over. The race is over already. Because that was a fairly quick race. The O'Reilly series went a little bit longer, but they had good racing. And then the All Star race was, I admit, our daughter and I took a nap for about the middle half of it.
Yeah, it was more like I think it was, uh, when I noticed you had fell asleep, it was at the beginning-ish of stage 2, and then you had texted me at, like, halfway through stage 3, so it was almost just over a third of the race that you were asleep for, so it's, like, understandable. But yeah, the All-Star race was kind of a, eh, meh. We'll get to that in a second after we kinda go over our O'Reilly points here, but like I said, the O'Reilly series, or like you had said, the O'Reilly series, great racing, and, I think they the O'Reilly series produces, in my opinion, better racing than the Cup series at times, most of the time, but that's my opinion. But it definitely showed for Dover. I mean, there were a lot of guys that I didn't expect to be where they were, and good or bad, and it was fun to watch, like, especially if you know the track and have been watching the races for a little bit longer, you know the typical lines that they run, and then now with the resin that they applied, they were able to run a little bit wider, which was really cool to see. And so, like I said, that allowed Corey Day to take home his second career win, which I think most people probably would have put, myself included, if I was a betting man. I probably would have put my money on um, this track being where he got his first win at, not Talladega a couple weeks ago. But he definitely proved his skill this week for Dover, and it actually allowed him to jump up another spot in the O'Reilly Series points. He went from fifth to fourth, and it's not by a whole lot, but he's climbing up that ladder, and I know there's a lot of hype around him right now, and with Jordan Bianchi and Bob Pockers both posting some silly season rumors and updates this week. There was a potential rumor that Corey Day could end up in a Hendrick car, replacing Bowman possibly, because I believe Bowman is in a contract year. So there's been a lot of rumblings about Corey Day this past week, and in his post race presser, he was tight lipped about his future and just said he wanted to continue to improve his racecraft and stuff like that. So it's good to see that he was no Christopher Bell and spoiling anything, but I have a feeling he might be jumping up within the next 2 years for sure. Not sure about next year, but uh, Corey Day again, fantastic run for him. Like I said, he jumps up to fourth in points. The current series leader in points is still Allgaier. He's won it, or he's led it since basically the beginning of the year, and he continues to lead by 175 points, which is one of the widest margins I've seen in a minute now. But he's above Sheldon Creed right now in second, and Creed's RCR teammate Jesse Love in third. Like we said, Corey Day in fourth, and then Brandon Jones in fifth. Now, Brandon Jones, I know we don't talk about a whole lot, but he had himself a fantastic day. Finished sixth, was running really well throughout the course of the race. Was able to get a stage win. Even I didn't even mention that he got the stage one win. I do have to mention Ross Chastain, another Cup driver, won stage two, but Brandon Jones, I think, is on the up and up still, and he's got a lot of a lot of potential in him, and he's had a weird career. So I think it's just this might be the year that with this chase format, I think he's got a good chance to do really well. I'm not entirely sure how well he's going to end up finishing at the end of the year. We'll have to see how the season plays out, but if it keeps going the way he's going, he's got a really good shot at um you know, I'll say making it far into the chase, but like making it far enough into the chase to where he's got a really good chance later. The later we run into the chase, but nonetheless, like I said, he's doing a great job. The cut line is also, because it's the cut line right now, it's still really close. It's anybody's, everybody's kind of floating around that cut line right now. Taylor Gray is in 10th right now. He's up 21 points on the cut line. Parker Retzloff, who was way up in points a couple weeks ago, now sits in 11th, only 19 points above that cut line. So Wallach is the theoretical cut line right now. Brent Cruz is only 5 points back of Sawallich, and Raja is 6 points back of Sawallich. And then if we drop down a little bit further, I mean, we've got Ryan Sieg. He's another 16 points behind Raja, which puts him 22 behind Sawallich. So, or 20, I'm sorry, 26. I don't know. He's not too far back is my point. So the cut line is going to get really interesting to watch, and watching those guys throughout the course of the season, how hard they race each other is going to get very fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But now that we hinted at the All-Star race, we can finally bring it up because it was a very, very rough start. I don't even think we got 2 laps in, and we had one of the roughest hits I think I've ever seen at Dover with Ryan Preece. I mean, looked like it. I mean, I believe his car came off the ground the way he hit that wall, but man, that was some rough hits early. Took out 9 cars, or it involved 9 cars, didn't take out 9 cars. But the format was really weird. They had 2 different segments, but after the first segment, they inverted the first 26, but they didn't have 26 cars in that were able to run because they had another incident towards the end of this first segment. So those that were like 26th and 25th were in the garage. So then they ended up moving up, like 24th and 23rd you know, to the front, and it was this whole mess. And they had so many incidents throughout the course of the race. And I don't know, if you had to pick a way to run the All-Star race, any format you wanted, no holes barred, and any track, where would it be and why?
I would still probably rotate it around. Have like maybe 5 or 6 to choose from. Like maybe like Richmond one year, do Wilkesboro, maybe do Rockingham one year, Charlotte, of course. Atlanta might be interesting. Expensive, but interesting. But in terms of format, one, you need to go back to 20 cars. I'm sorry. You don't need the whole field in the All Star race anymore. You don't. I'm sorry. I might be going on a little bit of a soapbox rant here, so I apologize if I go too long.
Do it. That's what you're here for.
Good. 18 to 20 cars. That's it. You don't need all 38, 36 cars in there. You don't need too much of an open. That's if, you don't have a lot of full-time guys. That's when you run an open. But I digress. As a format, 100 laps. The first 30 or the first 70 laps, you do the racing, let them do a pit stop or two. Maybe have them run no pit road speed. Let's call it that. No pit road speed. You come down as fast as you can, within reason. You do a pit stop as fast as you can, and then the last 30 laps. That's when you could probably invert the field, because that does provide something interesting. Inverting the field is not that. It's not that bad. It's just when you have almost 30 cars and you do it. Really? Why are we having the whole field? Not all of them are all stars. Some of them are here for only a couple of races. Some of them are only for, maybe a year or two. It has no meaning if everyone's involved. Just like quoting Syndrome from The Incredibles. Once everyone's super, no one will be. There needs to be a separation. But I'll leave it at that. That's my rotate it, track to track, unlimited, uh, no pit road speed, at least one or two pit stops, 70 laps the first segment, the second 30, or whatever the fuel window is, maybe like 5 laps before that, and 20 cars or less.
I can see that. I mean, I can see your argument for that. The the no pit road speed thing, I think, is not a good idea, just safety wise. I know in theory it would be interesting to see what every driver decides they want to come down pit road at, but
Because one year they
safety
tried
wise,
that, or they did it for like a qualifying thing or something, is come off of four, go into the pits and stop in your pit box as quick as you can. That was more of like an exhibition thing. And I
yeah.
admit, all of us have a little bit of a crazy humpy wheeler inside all of us.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know if we talked about it last week or one week, but humpy wheeler can have an idea of, okay, we're going to put monster trucks on the moon. Committee would say, no, that's stupid, dangerous, and expensive. Okay, fine. What about monster trucks that, turn into submarines and we jump a bus? Okay, fine. He would have a crazy
Yeah.
idea. He would shoot past the moon and he would land on the moon because
Yeah.
he was an entrepreneur. That was his bread and butter, and this was his baby as well, the All Star race. Minus a little bit of R.J. Reynolds kind of having a little bit of a say, but
Yeah. But it's always interesting to see, every year the the All-Star race kind of gets talked about as this gimmick, and especially what they've done the last couple years hasn't helped the image of the All-Star race at all. I have a proposal of I know we like to, the big boy is the Cup Series, right? But why not have an All-Star weekend with all 3 series? I mean, I know we're not gonna obviously offer, it would be great if we could give $1,000,000 to a truck driver, to an O'Reilly driver, and to a Cup driver, or go 1, 2, 3,000,000, something like that. Make it fun. Give each series their own little all-star race. I think it would be fun. Again, I am a fan of limiting the field to 20 or less. I would say probably 20 is pushing it, kinda depending on the track you go to. Like, if you go to Bristol, I would say 20 is good. Like, maybe 18, maybe, just kinda depending on how the situation looks. Yeah, I mean, the fan vote is I it's interesting because like, Gregson has won the fan vote. Hocevar theoretically probably would have won the fan vote this year. So, like, you have a couple guys that maybe aren't the most talented. I'm not insinuating that Hocevar or Gregson are not as talented, but you could have some guys that are not as talented that are voted in the All-Star race that don't necessarily level up, but it would make it fun. I mean, you could put the fan vote in there. I really don't care, but like, 18 to 20 cars max. And then I mean, I don't mind if you were to do like 100 laps seems like a nice round number. And then I don't mind throwing a caution at lap 50, but every lap under caution does not count. That's the one thing I think would be a lot of fun. Run 100 green flag laps. But at lap 50, like I said, you throw the competition caution, invert the field halfway through, maybe. The inversion thing is a little weird, but I think it could add some spice to it. But I think if you do it at the halfway point, it gives some of the guys that were leading more of an opportunity to come back and make a little bit more entertainment, I think, that way. But, like I said, you could do that. You could go 100 laps, lap 50, throw the caution. Only green flag laps count, kinda like what the Clash was, and then, do that for all 3 series. I am a fan of the pit crew challenge, giving those guys a shout out and giving them an opportunity to show off. I don't do that for all 3 series. That'd be fun. I mean, I know obviously they don't have full-time pit crews for all 3 series, but still, I mean, that gives them an opportunity to show off. It maybe gives teams a little bit more incentive to go out and have a full-time crew like that. Who knows? But I mean, I think if you're gonna do it for the Cup Series, I would say give the other 2 series a shout out too. Give them their opportunity to shine.
You do
Now,
run
as far as
into the problem of, like with the Cup Series or the Truck Series, half the field is not full time.
yeah.
And part of the Xfinity, or oh my gosh, I did it again. O'Reilly Series doesn't have a lot of, uh, there's not a lot of full time drivers, full time teams, and some drivers are jumping around. Example, Raja Karuth. Who does he
That's
drive
true.
for? What team does he go with? I get it, there should be something, but maybe have some sort of exhibition race to where it's, I don't know. We could probably talk
The
about this other, on like a little mini episode of something. But having All Star
yeah.
race for all three is iffy. I don't know, maybe like a race of champions or something one week where all 90 drivers
Oh, Jesus.
try to fit into 45 slots, but with like like Toyota Camrys or Priuses or something on a track with obviously safety equipment or whatever, but stock cars you get off the lot, off a rental lot, and just have some sort of race of champions thing where the lower series or the slow 90 drivers can have like a little consolation prize where they get like 50 grand or 100 grand or something.
Yeah. I think it'd
And
be
then
fun. I mean, that
and
you
then the $1 million can be okay, you 45 race around uh Richmond for no like 50 laps or something. Halfway 25, invert the field at 25. Just fill it up with fuel. I don't know, talk to Cletus McFarland. He might have some ideas.
put them all in Crown Vics. There you go. That'd be the easiest thing to do. He's probably got plenty of those sitting around, or he's got access to
Crown
plenty of
Vic
those.
at the Freedom Factory and run it backwards.
Hey, there you go. That could be a lot of fun. I mean, there are so many opportunities that they could do that. I mean, it would give a lot of these guys an opportunity to shine. I mean, the way you kinda bring it up, it's a mix of, of a Cletus video plus, like, a Top Gear challenge plus iRock all combined. Sounds like it could be a lot of fun. So, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities that they could do to make the All-Star race, I think, better and more enjoyable, but as long as they don't do what they've trying to make this super complicated where you gotta make a spreadsheet to follow it, and you gotta do math as you're going, and this, that, and the other. Just make it straightforward, but make it fun and entertaining and engaging. I do like the idea of the rotating track, but I also do like the Freedom Factory backwards. That would be kind of fun. So I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunities. It's not like NASCAR doesn't own a bunch of tracks anyway, so they got plenty of those to choose from if they wanted to rotate between their own. But I mean, it'd be fun. But I think they need to make it more entertaining. I think, unfortunately, with Miles the Monster deciding to take out everybody by the end of stage 1 or segment 1, excuse me, because they didn't call it stages, but segment 1, kind of ruined the interest, I think, and everybody kind of got turned off of it. But I did like the fact that they were able to, if you were involved in the accident, you could come back out in segment 3 and just kind of run it as if you were on the lead lap. So, because I think they put everybody on the lead lap when segment 3 started. So, nobody was a lap down. I mean, yeah, you were probably starting in the back because that's where you came out onto the track again, but you were still on the lead laps. It's not like you were 70, 80, 90 laps down. So, I did like that idea, but you gotta get rid of some cars and, like, half the laps, but I don't know. Besides the actual, like, the logistics of things, how do you think the actual racing besides the crashes went? Do you think Dover still sucks, or does it still create entertaining enough racing to warrant a cup date again? Points cup date.
If they keep the current package or tweak it a little bit, it would be better. It was better overall. What do they say? Instead of 4-inch spoiler, it went down to 3. It went down to the simple diffuser, and it went from 670 to 750 horsepower, I think they said, and
Yep.
some other minor
Those numbers
tweaks.
sound right.
So like I said, they just need to tweak it a little bit better. Maybe bring a tiny bit uh, worse tire. Just kind of give it a little bit of a spice, a little bit of a kick.
Well,
But other than that, I think it was decent. Other than daughter and I took a nap. The like I said, the middle third, the middle half.
yeah. No, I think the tire situation was interesting, though, because depending on the driver you talk to, I don't know that a worse tire would be great. I mean, I could see it for entertainment value sake, but you also don't wanna run the risk of trying to bring a worse tire, and then you end up with a Bristol from 2 years ago situation where, or was it last year, I think, where everything just you had 30 laps max and your tires were destroyed. I mean, that's the risk you run with that, but I think I do like the higher horsepower, lower downforce. It made things a lot trickier. They were talking about it on the broadcast as well, and watching the back end of the cars slip around and stuff was a lot of fun to watch. And knowing, I think from the driver's perspective, probably more fun to drive, but also more frustrating, therefore making it more fun. So I think it kind of all balanced out in the end, minus all the crashes. So um, yeah, it'll be very interesting. The Steve O'Donnell did say that um, Dover is a pretty big market that they want to stay in for the foreseeable future. So the rumor is that Dover is going to get a points race again next year. I'm hoping it's true because it deserves it. I mean, it's a really unique track. I mean, run it it runs like a short track, like you said, but it's also got concrete. So I mean, there's a little bit of Bristol in there. The entire track is banked and it's very difficult to run. It creates great racing all around. It's worthy of a cup date or points date. I keep specifying a points date because it's not like Dover didn't have a race this year, but this one technically didn't count unless you're Denny Hamlin, who won the million, and then Chase Briscoe winning 100,000. But if you weren't those two guys, you just tore up a race car for what? So I don't know, but definitely deserving of a cup date for sure. And I'll answer the the question of the title of this episode. You know, I don't have a title yet, but it's going to be something like "Does Dover still suck?" or something like that. But Dover deserves a cup points race, like it still does. Do you agree on that?
For the most part, mm, yes and no. But I'll save that for another time. I kind of have a soapbox for that.
Fair enough. But it was an overall great weekend of racing. Like I said, all 3 series were there. They all had a good time. Everybody left there with their full egos intact for the most part. A lot of damaged racing equipment from all 3 series. It was a very expensive weekend for the owners, but it created a bunch of entertainment for us. And like I said, it was very interesting to to get to watch it from this point of view again and just getting to see things like taking a look at it from a different perspective of like we were just casual fans back in the day and stuff. Well, I say back in the day, but when we were younger and stuff, and now it's like diving a little bit deeper into it and the strategies and stuff, and watching the progression of the drivers throughout the course of their careers is always fun. So it's definitely fun to keep up with for sure.
Well, we all know the winner gets the glory at the end of the day. But not every story ends in victory lane. Some performances deserve to be hung on the fridge, others you'd rather kick to the curb. Welcome to Fridge or Trash. This week's going to be a little bit different. Since the All Star race is a little bit of an exhibition race, we're not going to do it this week. We might talk about maybe performances of the week or whatever, or performances of the day, but it's not a real Fridge or Trash pick this week. So, with that being said, with the truck series, who do you think had a fantastic weekend?
I had mentioned him earlier, and we don't really talk about him a whole lot because he hasn't run the full truck season. But I believe he's going to apply for the waiver and probably end up getting the waiver to run for the chase if he reaches it. Corey LaJoy did a fantastic job. He came in 8th place. Uh, had a bit of a rough qualifying effort in 28th. He's not always been the best in qualifying for sure, but he was able to put it together. They were able to make the right adjustments, and he was able to find his way up to 8th. And like I said, somehow found his way up to the front. And he's not necessarily the quickest of our truck drivers that typically run, but and especially kind of on the back of an unexpected thrust into that 10 truck, being thrust into the 10 truck unexpectedly, but he's been able to put together some solid runs, and I think this is another good way to help his point situation try to and try to make the chase later on. Who was your performance that you would be pretty proud of?
Well, he's been a trash driver for a while. I'm glad to put him on the fridge. Is Ty Majeski finally putting some good results in that 88 truck? I saw him up front most of the day. I'm like, wow, I'm going to keep my mouth shut so he doesn't screw this up for me. But seeing him run up front and actually decent and didn't have to play strategy too much. He was a strong truck all day, even though Kyle Busch pretty much wiped the floor with everyone. I say he did very, very well this week.
For sure. I think it was refreshing to see the 88 up front instead of kind of mid-pack like that 88 truck has been for the last, I'd say you could argue 2 years, but it's good to see him up towards the front. Do you have a driver that you would you would think wants to just throw their performance in the trash for the week?
I think it's his entire team, but Daniel Hemrick and team just did not have a great weekend. What did they say? Fuel pump issue, and just never recovered from that ever since. It was fairly
Ooh,
early on, so his day was pretty much just ride around and just stay out of the way, and that's a day you don't want. It's just piddling around, just it seems pointless, but at the same time with this new points format, you have to stay out there for some amount of time. But that is a boring, long 2 hours just to ride around, do nothing. That's just something you just want to just forget about, move on to the next race, and use what you can with what the 16, 17 laps he did that were, you know, full throttle, full pace.
Yeah, I mean, he finished 177 laps, but as far as the, um, the amount of good laps he ran, you're right, was I mean, not very not very much. Uh, I'd say the one I hate to do it too because he was just struggling all day, but Andres Perez was he had a rough time in that truck. I don't know whether setup wise they meant like qualifying. He qualified top 10, so their qualifying trim was really solid. But for some reason, they missed on their setup this week and or adjustments that they made throughout the course of the race, and then he made some contact with the wall about midway through the race. I think it might have been contact from Destiny Spurlock early when she spun out, finally caught up to him, and then unfortunately kind of caused his day to go sideways. And, unfortunately that ruined his day and what momentum they had to start the weekend. But not necessarily the points day you want. Only getting 9 points back there in 28th makes that gap to the cut line a little bit bigger than what you want it to be. But with 9 races left, you got to kind of turn it up a little bit. So rough weekend for them, but those sorts of weekends are unfortunately going to happen, and this weekend was one for them. So, do you have one? Well, kind of keep on the negative train here for a minute. Was there a driver in the O'Reilly series that did not perform up to their expectations?
I think we mentioned him before, and one other driver he got tangled, excuse me, tangled with. But Raja Cruz, he just had a day that didn't want to really touch anybody, didn't want to, you know, just want to stay out of everyone's way, get a good finish. He got tangled up within 20 laps of each other. Just two incidents where it's just the way the car handled, the way where he was on the track. It was not a good day for him. And I hope Jesse Love can kind of look back and go, oh, I don't have to kick his rear end next week or punt him or whatnot, sweep it under the rug, let bygones be bygones. But then again, Jesse Love can surprise us at times.
Yeah,
But going back to Roger Cruth, I know we sing his praises. He's sometimes a bridge driver for us, but this week, it's time to crumple it up and move on.
I agree. I mean, and I think unfortunately, Raja's contact with Jesse also ruined Jesse's day a little bit. Jesse finished way back in 23rd. Raja in 14th. He fared much better, but just a rough go of it for both of them this week. The one that I unfortunately I'm going to put in the in the trash. Uh, I don't really want to do it, but I mean, Brent Cruz has been having a fantastic run of it so far, and he's still a young kid, but 22nd place finish, not necessarily the day that they want, especially like I said, with the momentum that they've built over the last couple weeks and really the whole season, just to kind of, I don't want to say putz your way around, but he was able to bring it home, but not not where they wanted it to be. So it was kind of a tough day for them. I know they had issues, um, just kind of staying with it and could never really get it back to even towards the front. I mean, they were running towards the back of the pack or towards the back of the lead pack, I should say. And it was very rough watching it because we know the talent that he's got, and unfortunately, whatever whatever they did in that car did not help because his teammate William Sawalich, another young kid, ended up in fourth. So, and then his other Gibbs teammate, Brandon Jones, in 6th. So it's not like the entire team was off. It was part of the team. So I don't know what the deal is there, but hopefully they can forget this week and move on to Charlotte next week with, coming back home basically for everybody, and able to hopefully they're able to just kind of let it go and get a reset on the week and call it good, and get back on the grind and get back to it. So you never know. But was there a I know we weren't going to necessarily touch on it too much, but was there a performance in the All-Star race that you wanted to shout out or anything like that?
Well, we are forgetting the fridge drivers for the O'Reilly series.
Did we? I completely skipped over that. That was my bad.
That's
Let's
okay.
not
I
do
I
that.
know I know we kind of bounce around and try to have a little variety of you know, let's do the fridge first, let's do the trash first. That's okay. But I like to shout out Earl of Sandwich, William Sawalich. He had a really good day. He had quite a few rough weeks to bounce back and get a really good result at Dover, especially Dover, is an accomplishment.
Okay.
Everyone kind of finished where we thought they would, minus a couple of hiccups here and there. But Williams Wallach bouncing back from some trash results, he deserves a little bit closer look at.
Oh yeah. He was one that for sure was having a great run all day. Even to start the weekend, I mean, qualifying 8th, you can't really complain about being in the top 10 at Dover to qualify. So I mean, great start for the weekend, and then overall great run for them. The one I'm going to shout out was one that I don't think we've mentioned. We may have mentioned once, and it was unfortunately probably for the trash, but Brennan Poole for Alpha Prime in that 44 car was able to bring home an 11th place finish. He hasn't necessarily had the best season. They've had some bad luck come their way and unfortunate incidents, but they hit on their setup this week much better than what they have been at Dover before, and they were able to get the job done. I know his teammate LeVar Scott unfortunately had engine issues and was unable to finish the race, but Brennan Poole is trending back in the right direction. Um, and that, like I said, that Alpha Prime team definitely needed some positive momentum because again, they've had a rough go of it just in general between the two cars, and the only time I think we've mentioned them was, well, I think we've mentioned LeVar Scott once or twice. Brennan Poole not so much, but it was good to see him on the positive end of things this week. And like I said, just being able to bring a clean car home and a top 15 finish, almost on the verge of a top 10. So great run for them. So now that we've now that we've done our fridge drivers, because they do deserve their flowers. I can't believe I forgot about that. I think that's the second time already this year I've done that. So I gotta be a little bit better with that. But was there a performance in the All-Star race that you wanted to shout out?
I would say Denny Hamlin, but that's kind of a cop out. I'm gonna probably say Briscoe. He's had a couple ups and downs. I think on the TV said the first 6 races he had 3 top 5s. In the past 6 races he only had one. And I know this is not a points race, but using this as momentum to get better, use Dover as, okay, here's what we can do, here's where we can improve, or here's where we're not good. I think Chase Briscoe's performance is a little bit underrated. It's not talked about enough on social media yet.
No, for sure. I agree. I mean that performance he put together this week was really well done. I I'm on the verge of breaking a couple rules for ours, or for my picks, just because I have like 3 of them I want to shout out. But I mean, Austin Dillon, I'm not necessarily the biggest Austin Dillon fan, but him coming home with a 4th place finish and running very well throughout the day was incredible to see. I know he's RCR is on a bit of an upward trend, which, take that for what it is worth, but they're actually doing fairly well. And I know Kyle was having a fairly decent day, but unfortunately got nailed with a speeding penalty and got trapped back in traffic. But Austin Dillon had himself a great day. His brother Ty had another great day as well. He was running up towards the front, and actually, I think Ty was in front of Austin at one point, and they were battling it out. So that was fun to watch the Dillon brothers battle it out in the All Star race. And then the other one I know was mentioned a bit, but I'm still going to mention him anyway. Connor Zilic with a top 5 finish in the All-Star race. I mean, what more needs to be said about that? He was very fast. There I think it was in the 3rd segment. He had one of the fastest cars, if not the fastest car on the longer run. So, he was catching guys very quickly. So, I mean, he whatever they hit on this week was really good for them. Hopefully, they can take those notes for this short track package and apply it to Bristol and Martinsville later in the year and possibly Richmond if they're running it there. I can't remember, but I mean, it is a good track regardless to take those notes and try to use them for your upcoming races and stuff with this package. So it'll be fun to watch. But other than that, like, the All Star race was what it was. It was really cool to see Denny. He was asked, "What's he going to do with the $1 million?" And he said, "Give it to Mama." So that was really cool. So he's, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting a little bit older, or because he's on the back half of his career, back eighth, whatever you want to call it, since he's not going to be racing for much longer. But I've started to feel for him, and I know we mentioned this before, but my opinion on him is changing a little bit. I still don't like him very much, but I appreciate him now for what he's done and what he continues to do. So I want to make sure to give my props to Denny now before he retires. But it's good to see him getting his second All Star win. Was it 11 years apart, which they said tied the record for longest gap in between All Star wins. So, and he's like the third driver I think to do it twice, or third driver to do it at two different tracks. It was Joey, Kyle Larson, and now Denny have done it at two different tracks. Not that it's been at multiple tracks for very long anyway, but, you know, regardless, it is what it is. But yeah, Dover, like I said, it was a pretty entertaining weekend for the most part, minus in your case half of the All-Star race, but it definitely shows why it still deserves to be on the NASCAR schedule, and hopefully we'll see it return as a Cup points race next year. Now, again, there are some rumors about the schedule. We have rumors from Jordan Bianchi that there is a potential exploration of the Chicago street course returning next year. Nothing has been confirmed yet, obviously, but they said there's been a lack of ticket sales for Chicagoland right now. So I will be very interested, and we'll have to keep some eyes on what that situation looks like in the coming weeks. So we'll keep you posted on that. But one thing I do want to also mention before we go that I, you know, didn't even think was a possibility until it was announced this week. Catherine Legg will be attempting the double. So she qualified for the Indy 500 day as we record this. She recorded, or, she qualified this weekend, and she will be starting in 26th in the Indy 500. And she will, from my understanding and what I've read online, she will attend the drivers' meeting on Saturday, and then fly into Charlotte, qualify, and then fly back to Indy, do the race on Sunday, then fly to Charlotte, do the race, do the 600 on Sunday evening. So I know this is not something we talked about, but how do you think Catherine will do at the double?
At the end of the day, accomplishing all or finishing all 1,100 miles, or at least getting to the very end of both of them, is the accomplishment. No one has ever won it. No one has ever won one or the other. It's one of those things where attempting it and getting all 1,100 miles under your belt or close to is the achievement.
Do you think she's going to complete all 1,100 laps or all 1,100 miles?
Depends. I don't think so. But I'll rephrase. Running at the end of all 1,100 laps is the accomplishment. That this entire thing is just your car needs to be running at the end of the race. Doesn't have to be all 1,100 miles, but it's got to be. Sorry, my audio cut out. This accomplishment, all 1,100 miles, needs to be completed, and you at least running at the end of the race. You're not really looking for wins right now. You're not really looking for, unless that's all you're doing each year, is just attempting the double, which then it doesn't become as special.
Yeah.
But I'm rooting for her to complete all of it. I do want her to do well, and both cars look amazing with the silver and pink and all that stuff. And I think her sponsor is actually pushing for it as well. If I read correctly, he could put up the text if I'm wrong or a caveat or whatnot. But it sounds like uh, her sponsors and PR manager actually suggested it, and the sponsors were on board. You know, pretty heavy and handsomely for it. So I just wanted to accomplish it. I want her to get more miles than Kyle Larson ever did. That'll be a story.
Oh, yeah, I think that would be talked about more than him running the 2. I mean, I think it would be awesome to see her run it and complete it. Um, I know, and I'm just gonna put this realistically, I think she's got a better shot of completing the entire Indy 500 than she does of the Coke 600, just with the way that historically she's run. I think that's realistically the way to look at it, but optimistically, I would enjoy seeing her accomplish running all 1,100 miles, partially because I'll be going to the 600 with our parents. So I think that would be really cool to be a part of, to see her run that and complete it. Regardless, it's going to be a big deal when she shows up to the track. So when that helicopter flies over, everybody's going to be super excited when she shows up. But regardless, like I said, I think realistically, the 600 is going to be a challenge because it is the longest race of the year. But so and obviously this is just me spouting things off because I don't drive in NASCAR, obviously, but at the 600, there's more opportunities to go laps down. So you're more than likely not going to finish all 600 miles, but um, with the 500, I think she's got her skill set is more fine tuned for that. But again, I just want to see her do it. And to your point, if she does make it further than Larson ever did, that would be hysterical. And all the haters can finally shut their mouths. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see any negativity going towards Catherine because I I dare and challenge anybody that throws any hate her way to attempt the double and see if you could do it, because I bet you couldn't do it. So that's just my 2 cents on that, but it's really cool to see her get that opportunity, and like I said, one that I realistically could have seen coming but didn't, just because didn't even know that she was going to attempt the 500, but now that we know she's going to attempt the double, definitely something to keep your eyes on this weekend. But again, we've got um, all 3 series are coming back home to Charlotte running, so should be a fun time. Definitely stay tuned to the socials to see some updates, and I'll have some photography posted as well from the 600 coming up at the beginning of next week. But we appreciate you guys tuning in and watching and listening and following along with us. We hope you'll be safe out there, and we will catch you guys next week after all of the 3 series come back home.